Hello and welcome to today's Dav Chat with me, your host, Davina. And I'm from Australia and I'm very invested in preventing a further descent into fascist style governance in the United States. The United States is a big domino that not only sets off other things happening around the world, is a powerful example and a powerful instigator. So today's episode is about Sarah Palin and vaccination gate, in that she's just tested positive for COVID, according to 3 rapid tests. But interestingly enough, the judge, when provided with evidence of her first positive result from a rapid test, asked her to go get this diagnosis confirmed with a PCR test. Sarah Palin left the court to get a rapid PCR test. These are available. You have to pay extra for them. She left the court. It was supposed to take between 15 minutes and an hour. She came back and it was reported, her lawyer told the judge she was confused by the lines for the rapid PCR tests and the PCR tests. So she left and instead walked to an urgent care center where she got a third rapid antigen test, which again was positive. So that's a bit weird, but also possibly Sarah Palin is just easily confused by lines. So let's have a look. I've got this open on Twitter, which is some reporting from the New York Times, because people said, well, Sarah Palin's probably lying about being unvaccinated for COVID because she was seen indoors at a restaurant in New York. The restaurant's name was Elio's, or Elio's, E-L-I-O, an Italian restaurant on Upper East Side of Manhattan that regularly draws celebrities and requires proof of vaccination status before you can eat there. So people were like, well, how can Sarah Palin claim to be unvaccinated when she was at this restaurant? Well, a manager for the restaurant, Luca Guattolini, was not working Saturday night but confirmed Ms. Palin's visit, said on Monday that the restaurant checked vaccination cards for all first-time customers, but not for regulars who come each week, and that Ms. Palin had dined with a long-time guest whom he declined to name. So that's probably really bad for the restaurant's reputation if it turns out that they don't check the vaccination status of their regular customers or people who are guests of their regular customers. That really undermines their compliance with the vaccination policies of New York. But in any case, it just perpetuates the drama of, so is she or isn't she? I guess her card wasn't checked. She was famous for having said, over my dead body, with regards to vaccination. And of course, now she's COVID positive, which can happen to people. Regardless of vaccination status, you can still contract COVID. It's not a guarantee that you won't contract it getting vaccinated and boosted against the disease. What it is a significant reduction in the risk of harm from severe COVID or the risk of death. It prevents hospitalization and death to a very high degree if you're fully boosted, not just fully 2-dose vaccinated, but if you have your booster as well. So let's see what happens with Ms. Palin. She's been awarded a 1-week stay of her defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. She was unsuccessful in her bid to have the court not see a performance of her from The Masked Singer, in which she performed. She was dressed up as a big, fluffy creature and sang Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. Quite a terrible, and look, everything I say is going to be subjective about that. I found it to be a terrible performance. I saw a lot of people on Twitter asking if they could unsee that. And yeah, maybe I'll share it with everybody. All right, let's click Sarah. Oh, wow. Trump's election probe in Georgia is to get a special grand jury. That's good. That's news from yesterday, I think. And all the time, I always want to share with people the transcript of the call between Brad Raffensperger and Donald Trump that happened when Donald Trump was still contesting the results of the election. Of course, he's still contesting the results of the 2020 presidential election. It's 2022 now, but the dude doesn't give up because it's a very lucrative false narrative for him to continue to spin. People donate to him, and it increases the likelihood of him getting access to power in the future going forwards, because he'll still be the nominee of the Republican Party in all likelihood, and he'll still be telling his supporters that they must personally act to remedy the great injustice that was done to him, their great white savior, Donald Trump, the spokesperson of white grievance in America, and more specifically, white male grievance. If you vote Republican, you are far more likely to agree with the statement, white people are discriminated against in America. And you will feel, on some level, you are likely to feel that you are losing out as others gain access to anything, to equality, to... I've got an ad playing in the corner, so we definitely don't need that. I'll search for Sarah Palin. Account. There we go. Okay, so I'll put my earphones in so we can listen to this together. This is Sarah Palin.
Palin listed a number of things that she wants hidden from the jury because they could cause, quote, unfair prejudice and confusion. And that includes this.
For Governor Sarah Palin, can I be a hype man?
Go, Sarah! I've been talking, I cannot lie. You are the most denied. When a girl walks in with a nitty bitty waist and around sticking in your face,
You get sprung.
oh my God, what is her show? Deep in the jeans she's wearing. I'm hooked and I cannot tear it.
Oh, baby.
Walking with ya and take no picture. My homegirl trying to warn me, but I want you jumping in so.
Palin listed a...
Yes. So I think Sarah Palin was right, and that it would be better for her credibility if that performance was withheld from the jury in her defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. Is there a jury in defamation lawsuits? I guess so. I've learned something today. Thanks, Sarah Palin, for that awful performance and for being a public anti-vaxxer and having an unknown vaccination status. All right, let's go back to my bookmarks here. So that's the controversy. The restaurant manager claims they're trying to get to the bottom of it because she claims to be unvaccinated, but she was seen dining in a restaurant where showing proof of vaccination status is a requirement, an alleged requirement of dining there. Here is a good comment on from Maggie J, a Twitter user I admire. She says, I keep hearing from the press that Biden should be focused on inflation, and I'm curious as to what that means exactly. They're working on supply chain issues. Biden can't interfere with the Fed. What should he be doing differently? What does greater focus on inflation entail? Very good point, because yes, they've done great work on addressing supply chain issues. One of the supply chain issues is people being out with Omicron, and that's the nature of a highly contagious variant of a disease that makes some people sick and some people to need to be quarantined or to stay home to not potentially infect others and make them very sick as well. It's just part of living in an interdependent, mutually supportive society. So thank you for making that point, Maggie. Or Magdi. The last thing I'd like to share is Don Jr. Because he has a video out today which we will listen to. 2.3 million views. So good that people are getting exposed to the problematic utterances of the former president's son. And before I play it, I still do want to say it is obviously propaganda. I hear Tucker Carlson's audience is now complaining, why won't America side with Russia? Because Tucker appears to be quite nakedly the hype man for Vladimir Putin and for Russia's argument that why is the West stopping them from invading Ukraine? Why can't you just let them have what they want in peace and quiet? Why can't you let them invade Ukraine, a long-standing ally of the United States? So thanks, Tucker Carlson, you white supremacist propagandist, and let's listen to Donald Jr.
Can't put Joe Biden in the same room as someone. He might let one rip. Guys, Joe Biden is what stands between us and a nuclear-capable China. Joe Biden is the guy they're going to call at 3 a.m. if there's a serious crisis with Russia.
So, yes, obviously left Twitter is speculating about what type of drug problem he might have, whether that's a mixture of using cocaine and alcohol at the same time. But there's elements of slurring and obviously a high degree of over-articulation, somebody trying to compensate for something, possibly a numb tongue or some aberrant sensation in their mouth. So they overspeak and they over-articulate and they say, Joe Biden, he's going to be the person in the room when there's a call because of a problem with Russia. Yes. It's irritating to have propaganda circulating, but many of us have come to understand that that is part of life and that we have to, in our own way, find countermeasures, ways to pass on information to our social circle. It's not just information and not just correcting them when they're wrong, but to be the instigators of a narrative. That's what Donald Trump's very good at doing, starting a story and telling it persuasively to the expense of the people who listen to him, who continue to send him money for his Stop the Steal fundraising efforts, and also continue to avoid being vaccinated as an illustration of their fervent loyalty to anything he says, and his early claims that COVID was a hoax and overhyped by Democrats and a product of a conspiracy to make him look bad, that's resulted in a lot of people refusing to participate in pandemic mitigation measures, putting not only themselves and their families in danger, but perpetuating a pandemic, being a tool of the Republican Party, essentially, which wants to perpetuate the pandemic for longer in order to harm the economy and, as a principal effect, to harm the political prospects of the Democratic Party and thereby, by extension, to improve the political prospects of the Republican Party. So a strategy to maintain and expand power at the expense of the very lives of the people who look to them for true quality information, and instead merely pander to whatever illogical or irrational grievances they have. It's an awful thing that the Republican Party has done to the people of America, because they haven't just victimized their supporters, they've victimized anybody with the misfortune to be in contact with an unvaccinated Republican person, or be in contact with anybody when this virus is still circulating at high levels, in no small part because of the refusal of 40% at least of Republicans to get vaccinated against this disease. And that's something that frustrates the more responsible subset of Republicans. And I think we should keep talking about that, because there must be some significant frustration there. The people who get vaccinated are more likely to understand that it's the refusal of some people to get vaccinated that is undermining the sacrifices and the pro-social behavior of everybody else. We've got to be the instigators of stories, telling personal stories and bringing to life things. So I'm going to start reading out loud bits from the Herman Cain Award, which is a subthread on Reddit whereby stories are told of people who have been virulent anti-vaxxers on social media platforms and who have then not only suffered the misfortune of being infected with COVID, but have been variously become oxygen dependent or been intubated and ventilated and then have also passed away. Because those stories, as told by snippets of their lives through social media screenshots, those are potent stories, and stories are what resonate with people. Facts can be sterile. Sharing science with people can sometimes be taken as an attack on the ego, and people are welcoming death to avoid the death of the ego, to avoid admitting they were wrong about vaccines and they were wrong to dismiss COVID and the seriousness of COVID, and they were wrong to decry mask wearing and vaccine using. So that's all from me for today. I thank you for listening. If for anybody's had time to drop by, thank you for your time and attention, and talk to you on another occasion. Bye.